think we can start off with it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, well, I guess first, welcome. Thanks for coming today. It is amazing to be able to sit here with my girl Danielle for her artist talk. This show was born out of her brain, her heart, her passion for storytelling. And it's just amazing for us to be able to sit and be a part of the journey and the story along with her. The video that we're going to start out with, when the show is like open, typically you hear this haunting melody in your head from this video that's being played, and they're images taken from Danielle's research, but the vocals from that video are from Janitza, who wrote a song that Danielle insisted that it be a part of the experience. So I guess we should start the video and then we can, I'll shut up and let her talk.
You have to be right up close to it.
Okay, here we go. It's got to feel it. We'll get this done.
Hello, beautiful Brick City. This is Janitza. Reporting to you guys. First and foremost, I want to give a big hug and gratitude to my sister in art, Danielle Scott, for inviting me to be a part of this powerful exhibit, Ancestral Call. And I want to thank Anthony Boone and Brian Small for curating it with love and dignity and respect. Ships on the Horizon was written right here when I was unable to finish the tour at the Museum of Slavery. I was overcome with emotion from the hatred that existed in this place towards my brothers and my sisters on this planet we call Earth. I was contemplating on that tree and thinking of the people who would seek shade under this tree. Most especially I was thinking of the women. And that's why the song starts off with a calling. Where it's this, not fictional character, maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But I saw this woman under the tree, seeing these ships on the horizon. And that call she made was to warn her other sisters who were with her. And some of the sisters decided to get a little more curious about the ships. You know, they were more like, I want to see it, I want to look at it, it looks really cool, you know. But little did they know that these ships on the horizon were coming for them. In the first verse, I pay homage to Donny Hathaway and Margaret Gay. In the first line, we live our lives on stages wondering what's going on, because I needed to give honor and respect to the people that have written songs before me. Although, in all honesty, the song was inspired by Nina Simone and what she says when she says that an artist's duty is to reflect the times. So, the first verse is mainly the present day. Well, I wrote this song in April earlier this year, so it was what I was feeling. The bridge speaks of the tree behind me, growing with the moonlight. And the chorus, which is no words, it's just, whoa, whoa, is the enslaved people releasing this sigh of, like, wow, we're here, this is about to happen to us. The second verse is all about the facts. Did you know they were baptized before they were sent away. The people who were enslaved were told that they had the sins of Cain and Abel, and they were taken into this chapel, and they were baptized here and given Christian names before they were sent off to the Americas or wherever else they would go. All of their loved ones screaming, praying for repentance of sins. Little did they know that they were far more sacred than them being the people who enslaved them, because they were telling them that they needed to repent their sins and that they were going to go away to repent. And the people who were enslaved were more sacred than any being who's walked this planet. So yeah, I wanted to, everything happens for a reason. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there physically for the artist talk, but I'm here, and if this is the first time that I sang Ships on the Horizon here, I was writing the lyrics in my head. When I got to the school that day, I wrote everything out, and I composed it on guitar. It's an honor for me to be here, and it's an honor for me to share this moment with all of you and bring Ancestral call to a full circle where it all began here and then it led to the States. So thank you, Danielle, once again. Thank you, Gallery Aferro, for giving my sister a voice. And I hope to see this exhibit in the museums across the United States in the future. Peace out. Reporting to you live from Ancestral. First and foremost, I want to give a big hug and gratitude.
So I guess once we're all done, you'll hear the video playing. But I want to turn the floor for a second over to Danielle.
So I'm Danielle Scott. Most everyone in this room I know. I've shared time with them. I've been mentored by two in this room. My godmother is here, and my son, other artists that I've been around since I was younger are in this space. This series is very different. Ancestral Call happened happened a year ago. I decided to take a journey to different places, and one of those places happened to be plantations. I've never been on them. I've heard the stories of plantations. I've heard the stories of cotton fields, and I told myself, if I'm going to tell a story, because I want to tell the story, I want to tell the story with accuracy, and I want it to be correct, and I want to know what happened at these plantations. So this whole series took about a year to research the data for the collection. I've stepped foot on about 4 different plantations. The first plantation that I went to, I went there, but I only heard the story of the slave owner. I didn't hear the story of the slaves. And I was more interested in the people that were there, who lost their lives, who lost their families, who were separated from their families. So then I continued my journey and went on to 4 other plantations. Some of those plantations were able to give me the books that you see behind. They're actual slave narratives and actual slave stories of the slaves that lived there and what they did. From those plantations, a sugar plantation, I also went to the Free People of Color Museum. And there, I was able to get the data, which is in the work. So most of you are seeing the work and probably want to know what are the names that are in the work and the information that's in the work. So the Free People of Color. So when people of color were free, they had to carry a certificate to be out for a day and to roam the streets, so that if they were caught, they would know that they were okay to be out. So what you're seeing, the words are actually their certificates that they carried as they were roaming the streets in Mississippi. Most of my data right now is coming from Mississippi. It's coming from New Orleans. In order for them to go into Congo Square in New Orleans, they had to have the data as well. And Congo Square is very sacred, and that's where most of the slaves would come together, and all ancestors would come together and sit within Congo Square. So you'll see that in the work. The images that are in my work, a lot of these images come from me doing the research, digging up books, going into old bookstores. I can't even tell you how many bookstores I've been in, but I like going into a bookstore and then I can see that they have these little drawers. But inside the drawers are these images. But who's telling a story if the images are still in the drawer? So I will sit there and go through the black and white images and try to find something that I can use. So some of the images come from there. Some images have been given to me. Some of the other images come from Tulane University, which is in New Orleans. The Amistad Research Center is there, and you can spend hours there, and you can touch documents that were held by Fannie Lou Hamer, things that were held by Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you name it, they have it. The beauty of that research is going there and actually being able to take the image out of a box, but when you take it out, you have to have gloves on, and you put it between these cushions, and that's the only way you can flip it and touch it because it's so rare and so delicate. So I enjoyed that part, and I would spend hours doing that to find some of these images. And then the fabrics, my papers are sourced from all over the place. Everywhere I go, I try to get more and more papers. Different papers, different fabrics. A lot of the papers, if you look at them, they are plant-based. So you'll have some banana peel paper, you have some plant paper. There's two other ones that are a very organic substance. And then the fabric. So there's some fabrics that are weaves within. Those fabrics have come from the UK, so I just traveled for the first time to the UK, so I brought back some fabrics. I also brought back things to adorn what I was working on. So they've come from Amsterdam, they've come from Paris. I can't even tell you where I've sourced so many things. The other thing with my work, it's also my photography. So most people who have known me know that I love photography. I don't ever claim to be a photographer. Most people think I am, and they'll ask me to photograph, but I won't. So you'll see my own photography within the work. The other thing that you're going to see, and some people are finding me. So there is a piece at the end, the grandmother. I'm actually in that piece. I'm sitting on one of the cabins on the plantation. And I had to sit still there because when you're on a plantation, the emotions that you feel there it's so powerful. The energy you feel there. It's like they're still there and they're watching you. The ancestors there, they're walking around, they're surrounding you. I had this same feeling when I went to Cuba with Ben. And when I was in Cuba, I spent some time having my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner on the Malecón. And the water is so powerful. Just that feeling and that energy that is there. Something's there, and it's very powerful, and it pulls you in. So you feel that when you're on plantations as well. I remember just crying when I was at the Whitney plantation, and I went into this jail cell where slaves were held in there, and you will actually see me walking the plantations in the video. You'll see me picking cotton in the video. You'll see these things. I wanted people to be able to come with me on this journey in many ways and then see that what I experienced and then how it was put into the work. The other thing that you're going to see in the work is just yourselves. Many of you might see yourselves, you might see your family, you might see your ancestors. We all come from, just, how do I explain it?
I think
one thing, like spending time with the work, you see yourself, you can feel the energy of the work. Well, full transparency, all of us have studios at Manic Contemporary and have been friends for years and kind of speak an unspoken language at times. And several times throughout the process of Danielle creating this body of work, Boone will walk into the studio and be like, something is in here. Like something is in here, and I walk in and like, at different times and say, what is the energy in here? You could feel a vibration in the space. And part of that is seeing yourself, seeing your history, feeling, almost feeling the trauma of it all, just being around this body of work and seeing, but also inspired in the way that Danielle works. She has this laser-like focus in the way that she creates the body of work.
Very meticulous. And she's creating her patterns, just the way she take things apart and put it back together. She talks to it. It's funny because the last time I seen his work is when I did the installation, and the same feeling I got when I did the installation, the same feeling I got when I came back in. This work has presence to it. It speaks to you. I see my cousins, I see my aunts, I see my family members. So, and my family's from the South, my family's from Mississippi, so it's very personal for me. Even when I look at the washboard, my grandmother had a washboard. So this work is very personal, and it's meant for Danielle to create this body of work.
So let's talk. Now we're going to do like the interview portion. This body of work, well, let's start off with the name of the show.
Ancestral Call.
How you got to the name of the show.
How I got to the name Ancestral Call is I felt it was my duty to tell the stories of everyone's ancestors. I'm not just going to say my ancestors because of what my background is. My background is Afro-Cuban and Polish, religion, Jewish. Those are my grandparents. And this only shares parts of my ancestors. So I felt like each piece called me. When I started, and the crazy part is, I didn't start with these. I started with those washboards. And I happened just to be in a store that had these washboards, and they were brand new washboards. And I started collecting them. I started collecting these washboards 2 years ago. So it's something that already called to me to create this body of work. And the more I traveled, the more I put the whole series together. So it started with that. And just knowing that I've watched my grandmother birth her clean using a washboard. When I lived downtown Jersey City and my grandma lived in, one of the old brownstones, I watched her doing that. So a lot of the pieces is very, it calls me, it calls home to me, something very safe to me, and it just made me want to create and tell these stories. And also the fact that I am a storyteller. So each series I've done deals with a story. Not as heavy as this story, but I knew that I could do it. And I wanted it to be done where everyone would receive it. And I feel like you're not only receiving it, but they're speaking to you. And it's you actually understanding that I was called, so I heard them. And it's the weirdest thing. And I'll kind of tell you something about ancestral calling. When I went to pick cotton, and this will creep you out. I went to pick cotton, I picked cotton, I filled a 70-pound bag of cotton, and I could feel in my bones pain that was felt when this was put on a young child or on a woman or a man. After that experience, I went to the church. And the church, the woman said, you can go in the church, it's open. I kept pushing and pushing the door. It was locked. Like, when I mean it was locked, it was locked. And I kept pushing, it would not open. My partner tried to open the door, it would not open. I stepped back, and the door just opened. And the first thing I did was I went to the door, and I said, thank you. for allowing me to come in and share in your space, because I knew something was there. And then I went into the church and I sat in the church, and you can just feel it. You could feel who was there, who prayed in that church, who chanted in that church, and what families were in there, because the church was actually surrounded by the shack. So when I named it Ancestral Choir, I went through a couple different names for the solo, but after that experience, I knew it was my calling to do this body of work.
So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. In regards to your picking the images, how did you go about picking these particular images for each piece?
They talk to me. So when they say that I talk to my work, there's a couple pieces in here that I've had a fight with. Particularly, well, let me not start with them, but the grandmother at the end where you see me, I was at a residency and I was talking to her about her clothes and what she wanted to wear and the colors that she wanted to be surrounded with and the papers. And the students at Portland were like, who's she in there talking to? And I was talking to her. And I didn't want the conversation between her and I to end. And then I saw my image of me sitting on the porch in the plantation, and I added it in. And if you look, you'll see that she's looking right down at me, because I wanted us to continue to have that conversation. So a lot of the pieces, I've talked to them. I've figured out their composition by talking to them. These three little girls, same thing. The one in the middle, she was like, you can't crown the other two. If you crown the other two, I don't want to be in this picture. So we had that conversation, and she was if you look at her face, you don't want to mess with her. You don't. The big piece, the one in the center, ooh, boy. Whoa. They talk. They really, really talk, and they had conversations with Brian.
Oh my God.
So there is an energy here, and I'm so happy that I was able to experience this, and I don't think I'm going to stop creating in this way. I want to continue creating in this way so that, these stories are not sitting anymore in books or on shelves or in drawers.
I think something else about the work is that though the core, the subject matter of the work is heavy, it's part of our history, the way that you've treated the work, there's an elegance, a royalty, a joy, a pride in who we've become. I think people always, when we talk about history, I always think, you know what, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And to be in a space where we're able for you to tell the stories and present us in this polished, beautiful way, in spite of what the subject matter is, tapping into the lineage and the history, and you being able to have a conversation with this grandmother is really, really powerful. And I think in comparison, because each collection has its own story, this is the previous series, Birther, was all adornment and a focus on women specifically. This is so broad and so magical in such a focused way. So with the materials that you use, you source lots of paper, lots of fabrics.
Where do you get your frames from?
Oh yeah, talk about the framing. Materials.
So I've never framed my work. My last series, Birther, I think it had 2 frames in it. But there was something about this work where I knew it had to be framed. I wanted it to feel very finished, that's number 1. And I wanted something raw that would go with the work, with the history of the work. And I didn't want to take it to a framer to frame it. So my framer is sitting next to me. That's how close we are. And we just decided to take some old wood that was sitting around Mountain Contemporary. And, I said to Aunt, torch it. and I was at a residency. I said, why don't you just torch it and see what will happen? And he went in my studio, grabbed my torch, and he started to torch it, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. That is it. It is beautiful. That is it. And we worked together. We, cut the frames. I did some of the cutting and torched them all, and we put it together. The only frame in here that was not framed by Ann was a gift to me, was the 60 by 70 frame. The 60 by 70 frame came as a gift from actually Amy Sherrill. If you know who she is the American painter who painted Michelle Obama. And Amy came down and she had a discussion with me, and she basically just said, you have to figure out what you want to do on this journey. And she said, I'm going to tell you now, one of the hats that you are wearing, you need to stop wearing. And what she meant by that is she found out that I'm a mother, I can't stop being a mom, I'm teaching, and I'm also in my studio constantly. So when she came down to give me that gift, that frame, and said, work larger, she said to me, why don't you think about taking a break from teaching? So I went on a sabbatical this year because I wanted to really see what it felt like to be a full-time artist, to get up, go in my studio at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would like to leave at 4 o'clock, my regular teaching schedule, but I don't. I stay in it to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just working straight. But it's been a beautiful experience just to be on a sabbatical, not teaching, not have to go into a classroom. Because some of us are art teachers in here. When you have to teach art all day, how do you give that to your own work? You can't. And now I know what it is to be able to just to give all of myself to my work.
There's also balance though, because I've had to step in and Danielle, you need to go to sleep home. You have to sleep. You cannot go 3 days not sleeping, not leaving the studio. I'm like, come to my house, just go to sleep. You can get up in the morning and keep going, but you have to sleep. This one too. They, you guys gotta go to bed. Not that I'm doing all this sleeping, but it's you guys gotta rest. But there's something about when Danielle locks in.
I can't come out.
I've seen her create 3 pieces. I need to get these 3 pieces done. They need to be perfect. I didn't like the last one, and she would start anew, and the next day, a piece is done.
Honestly, I don't know how she juggled all these hats with everything that's on her plate, but I can say about her taking a sabbatical that I think, to me, the Ancestral just opened so many doors for her, because the sabbatical came and then all these opportunities came at the same time. So it was just this is what's supposed to happen, was meant to happen, was meant for her to create this work. And so yeah, that's the Ancestral.
So let's talk about the names of the pieces.
Oh. So, I don't like to title my work, but the names of the pieces are the names of the people who were free and who walked around with certificates. So what I did was I looked at each piece and I looked at the words that were in there, and I honored the people that are actually in the piece. So I picked the names from the work. And it took me a while to do that. I didn't name the pieces until they were about to come here, but I had to sit with them and look through them and see what words, what names worked. The only piece that is not named in that way is the grandmother. The grandmother is Margaret Bertha Sylvia. Margaret Bertha Sylvia are all of my grandmothers. Margaret Mendoza is my grandma from Cuba who lived in Vedado. Sylvia is my Polish Jewish grandmother, and Bertha is my dad's mom, who is from Emporia, Virginia. So because I had such deep dialogue and deep conversation with the grandmother, I named her after my grandmothers. But every other piece is named after the people that are within it, except for the sculptures. So there are, I'm moving towards some video and more sculpture. So you'll see the resin cast of the noose that I poured at the foundry. So I was able to experiment with pouring 400 degrees of aluminum into a resin cast. So that's where the noose cast came from, and the cross that it's hanging on. I work with found objects, so the cart that the resin cast is in, I found that, worked on it, cleaned it up, and had it here. Same thing with these pieces. I think I can tell a story and not use images and not use work and not use papers, because when you look at the washboards or the washwoman, that's what it's called. You know what it is from just that.
I want to talk about the cotton.
Mm.
And what did they do as far as breaking it down, the seeds that are cotton?
So what I wanted to do during the artist talk as well is give you a piece of cotton, so that you can, if you haven't felt or gone to a cotton picking or cotton gin field, I want you to hold the cotton and see what you get from holding that cotton, what you feel. I know that we are in Gallery Aferro and you're not on a cotton field, but in going there, I learned the process of the cotton. I have a couple pieces, and these are picked by me. So this is a cotton bowl that I have in my hand. So you can just pull a piece from it, and what you're going to feel beneath your fingers is the seeds that are in the cotton. So as you pull it, I want you to try to get all the seeds out of it.
Danielle, is it all right if I say something right now? Because I have to leave.
Of course.
One body. But I know these, as we sit here and understand, hear you talk, if you understand the spirit world, that's your connection. And you're connected. You've always been connected in your work. But you're in understanding that world, and if you go more into that world, I've often heard writers say, oh, I started a book, writing this book, or writing this play, and the characters took over, and they started, so it's a natural process. It's natural, but know the spirit world and go deeper into it, because it will bring you things in your work that you didn't think. You're trying to understand that, I hear a lot of young people talk today, and they sound kind of careerist, like they use all the right words and the right terms, but when you're connected to that spirit world, things are revealed to you, you know what I mean? And the fact that she's Cuban, and she's gone to Cuba, you have the Afro-Cuban religions. I hope you go to Africa. I hope you go to Africa, and especially Nigeria. And because, living in this kind of society, a lot of times we're disconnected to these things, and we don't realize that they're really natural. But we have to just let ourselves be open to it. And you've been in that process all your life, I'm sorry that I have to leave to get another thing.
I just want to say, because Danielle and I have both been blessed to be taught by this master. That line of the spirit comes from here. And I was blessed to have her in my studio. She touched my work. And there's evidence of that. And I'll never forget when I was in college, she was my teacher, and I came crying, couldn't do my homework, couldn't buy no art material. And Mr. Jones said to me, the only thing an artist can do is make art. If you don't make no art, you're not an artist. You don't have to have a studio, do it in your kitchen. You don't have no art materials, pick some shit up off the street. And then
You might have the wrong one.
so that's how I live. That's how my work grew. And when she came to my studio, the spirit came with her. It was weird.
So best of luck.
Yes, thank you.
And wish you the best and love you and be
Love you,
blessed.
sir.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I gave everyone the correct cotton. One is cotton flower and one is actual cotton. So as you pull through it, you should be able to feel the seeds. If you don't feel seeds, I'll give you the actual one. So what would happen is you would have to, if you worked on a cotton field, you would have to pick all of these seeds out and separate them. So after you have picked a 60-pound bag in a cotton field, you would have to come in and then pick the seeds out of the cotton, separate them from the cotton. So that's what you are feeling. So if you don't have any seeds where you're able to pick the seeds out, so the seeds when you pick them, they're supposed to be picked out to come out to be clean, like this. So they should come out and they should be clean, like this tiny seed. So if you don't have that in yours, I'll come around and give it to you. So when I went there, the woman was so wonderful in explaining it. It is a cotton field that is, working. It's in Mississippi, which is great to go there and talk to her. To see cotton in its rare form, it's a beautiful little pink flower that buds. So there's a 4-part process of cotton when you see it till it gets to the cotton field. And I know that we have this history of the cotton fields being something very traumatic, which it is. But when you see in Mississippi rows and rows and rows and rows of cotton, it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. The video that we have behind us is also, you'll see me traveling through the plantations. And the reason why you were introduced to Janessa in the beginning of the presentation is most times I log into my studio, I don't go anywhere. But the one day I decided to come into Newark to City Hall, I came to an open mic. And of course, my sister Janessa was there. Janessa started to play. And she was playing Ships in the Horizon for the first time. And she explained her journey to Angola and how she felt coming out of the slavery museum. And I started crying. And Janessa came up to me and she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." I said, "But I would like to invite you to add your voice to the videos of me on different plantations." So in the film, you'll see me traveling, the video, all of my research, and then you'll hear Janessa's voice. And on the table or the counter behind, you'll see all the books, all the data I've collected. The Free People book is there. All the stories are there. Anything that I've collected during my research, outside of the images and my papers and stuff, is behind you.
I think another thing with the video is, we'll get it set up. We threw them a curveball adding Janessa from Angola today.
Yeah, so Janessa, she's in Angola. So she's in where the song came from, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
You said 70 pounds?
70 pounds.
So just imagine how light this is in 70 pounds. You have to get all the seeds out of this
Imagine
cotton.
how much you have to see this.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't get the pleat at all.
And you can keep
Right.
your
You cannot stain the cotton.
I kept mine the
Fingers
first time I went.
bleeding,
No
everything.
bleeding, no,
Yeah.
no gloves.
No.
And these are, when you're walking, to tell you the truth, when you're walking through them, and I made sure I experienced that to walk through where the cotton is, you're getting pricked by the majority of things that are in there. Just imagine walking through there wearing, well, their clothes were very similar to my pants. So they were linen and they didn't have shoes. So just imagine that kind of experience of walking through there. Those
Right.
spaces. Yeah, dragging the bag.
You can play the video.
So the video, you'll see my travels and, just in, I guess, you can't close your eyes and listen to the song, but you need to see the video. But the song is powerful. image is very meaningful to me. That was the first plantation we were on. And I remember when I was thinking of doing a video, and the curtain, it caused me to sit and just cry. There was no wind at all. I was in New Orleans and it was 92 degrees that day. And I went into the one tiny home and I was just sitting in there looking at the pots and things, and then I looked up and I just saw the curtain and I was like, wow. And it just kept going and kept going. And when I asked Brian, who is the curator, to put all the footage together, that was the most important thing, was that little tiny film, because that's when I knew that the power of ancestors or spirits that Ben was talking about, and I knew that I wasn't seeing things or feeling things because there was no wind. It was 90-something degrees. So I knew it was very powerful. So what you're seeing in the video is me going to the plantations, and the list that you saw me filming and walking around is all the list of the slaves that were on these plantations. That day it rained, and I didn't care that it was raining. And you can see, I was there and just made sure to film it all and take it in. So I think that as I grow with the work, I want to film more and document more. So what you don't see is, I guess my next series will be from the cotton picking experience. I filmed that as well. So I guess I love you guys.
I think something else that, learning that Janitza wouldn't be here. We worked on this for months, just trying to go through all the videos and images and everything. And one of the things we talked about was potentially sharing the Zoom call that we had. Janitza and her house not feeling all that great, and us in the studio at Manna just kind of talking about it. And at some point, Boone said, like, something magical is happening right now. Like, we need to document this. We need to record this. And so I'm like, all right, let's record it. Because we knew in that discussion that something was changing. Like, something was unlocking. And at that time, we had not heard the song yet.
And I kept telling him, I was like, oh my God.
You're like, you gotta hear this song. You gotta hear this song. And we're like, all right. And Janitza, during the call, started singing. And we were like, oh my God. Like, and about, like an hour later, we all went back to our studio, started working. And Boone came back around the corner and was like, I keep hearing that song in my head.
It's haunting.
I keep hearing it. I was like, me too.
It's very haunting.
And it just plays in your head. It's something special about, like, the gift of being able to curate with Boone is we know Danielle well. But it's also being able to step back and, like, see just how good this work is. Like, it's good. And that's coming from, like, a place of, like, being an artist, experiencing art, not as my friend. I'm like, this is really good stuff.
And I mean, just the her growth, from where she was and where she's at now. The work is amazing. She's definitely growing.
We also are going to take questions, so if you guys have questions, please jump in, because we can talk. I know I am, sorry.
So Ben just said something, and Ms. Washington. So I am going to Angola. I will be leaving. I'm working out the details right now. I'm going to be going twice because of my schedule. So mid-January, I'm going to leave to go to Angola. The person who's running the program where Janetza is came to see this exhibition and invited me to come there to do the artist residency program. So I'm going actually the end of January for 2 weeks to do some research, a lot of research with them. And then I will actually be returning to Angola end of March and staying until April. They do want me to stay till June, but I can't. So I'm going to be there to do the research, pick some things, get materials, get fabrics, raw items, and bring them back so that I can start my next series. And I'm looking at Doris, this series is the story is going to continue to be told, so it's going to leave here, and it's actually going to go to a university, which is, for me, something that I want. Because I want students to be able to see work like this. I want students to know that artists are historians as well. You know, we research and research, we research. Some of us just don't go out there just to create. No, some of us put a lot of ourselves into the work. A lot of substance goes into the work before we put it out there for people to see. And I'm happy that it can move from here and share space at a university where students will be able to see it and receive it.
It's education.
Well, I'm just happy to witness what's happening with Danielle right here. I've known Danielle for probably 10, 15 years. And to see, and I didn't know a story like I know now. I didn't know like Benjamin or something, so I didn't know, and Miss Growler, and all these people have touched her, and Miss Washington has touched and been a part of her life. So Danielle's been groomed to be what she's ever been. This is not, an accident.
So I know her walk with the Spirit because we both came from there. But I can see how it has affected you. How has it affected your creativity, your art, just your very right?
I'll tell you how. Our studios are side by
When you hear
side.
her walking around, you get up.
Yeah, I hear her, like, our studios are literally side by side. I can smell her. No. There have been plenty of times where I'm like, Danielle, who are you talking to? Like, because I usually have big headphones on and I'm working, and I hear her talking. I'm like, what is going on? And I'll go in and she'll be like, oh, they're talking to me. I'm like, all right. But the ways in which it's inspired me. We work really well together, but seeing Danielle take the leap and going big makes me want to go bigger. I think we push each other a lot, but I find that we all hold each other accountable for what we're doing, where we are, and getting the work done. And if one of us is slowing down, we put the pressure, like, get back to work. What are you waiting on? Like, you may be in a rut. You may feel like you're stuck. You ain't stuck. I got you. We got you. So most of our conversation is always about, like, you good? What's happening? But it's made me say, damn, I gotta set this shit up. I gotta get to work because she is stepping it up and leveling up, and it's inspiring.
Both these guys are educators. I'm self-taught artist, and so they're like my teachers. I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from Brian. Just thrifting, going to the thrift store, thrifting different things. Never thought about thrifting, and then I'm, picking up certain things. She's going to travel to the plantation. She's bringing that back seashells in my work. So she inspired me a lot. So, it's a lot of things I'm learning just being around both of them.
The other thing is that, and it's something that Danielle doesn't talk about, she does not use excuses. She's not a person that rests on any excuses. Some of you may or may not know that Danielle is actually legally blind by definition. And the meticulous nature in which she can cut and execute is nothing short of crazy town bananas.
You gotta see it.
When you know that all of these pieces are hand cut, precision, and she can do it over and over again. That large piece on the wall, in the center of the wall, was created small first, as like a proof, a study first, and then just like, and now I'm gonna make it 60 by 70. It's like, what? And then level up from what she learned in the study, and it's all hand cut. When the video, it's in there, but you don't really see how close she is down to the paper. It's like inches away. from the surface that she's cutting.
And all I have to say is troubleshoot.
Oh, yeah.
Danielle troubleshoot anything. Like, she'll figure it out. You know, she'll correct a mistake. You know, just how does she go about the spray paint that she sprays on the stuff that she does?
So,
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
There is spray paint in my work. I do use spray paint. They know because they get to see it, but a
They
lot of
smell
my
it.
work.
They
And smell it. Yeah, so between the mediums, and my mediums of choice are not the healthiest ones, like the resin that I use. So this particular series, I'm happy she's walking away because she's gonna say something. So this particular series has over 25 gallons of resin on it. And resin is expensive. And a lot of work goes into it, and you have to be a chemist when you're mixing the resin and applying the resin and using the torch on the resin.
You know what I'll say instead for her, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I wanted my work to be sealed in the resin. This is the only series that I've actually sealed all of them. Some of them call for it, some of them don't in my last couple series, but this series needed it. And I wanted it to feel very permanent. Nothing can destroy it, nothing can peel from it, nothing can be taken from it. It is embedded now in my history as an artist. So that resin makes it very, very permanent. You know, if it goes somewhere else, if I have to add another layer, whatever I have to do, and they're heavy. They're very, very heavy.
Blessings to the Gallery Aferro team, because we had them sweating for the opening of the show. The large piece on the wall
It has a story.
between I don't know, the universe, God, boom. Yeah, but everybody, like, there's a line on the floor, but this piece, the largest piece, and it's the largest piece you've worked on in this way, nearly burned Mana Contemporary down.
The piece went up in smoke.
Unlike anything
I didn't
we've
witness
ever
that.
seen. We stirred resin, like, we're gonna get this piece done. This was the last piece. Like, this is gonna be the big win. This year, you're gonna do it. She mixes the resin. I'm helping her pour the resin. Everything, it is perfect. And she says, like, there's a bubble in there. You see this bubble? She was like, well, let me get the torch. The torch didn't work. We got another artist that provided a heat gun. We get the heat gun, and somehow the resin turned into lava. And it started smoking. The piece, because it was in this large frame, everything, we're like, what is happening? Somehow it almost immediately cured on the top level, but everything underneath was bubbling and crystallizing, and it was traveling across the piece.
I think the ancestors are talking.
Oh, so
yeah.
the girl in the white dress in the center. If you see her face, we've named her Amina, because she has a scowl on her face that does not play, and was like, I do not want to be covered in this resin, and fought that hard. But like, Danielle was quiet, and it's a certain devastation and anger that comes when you are quiet. And she was seething, like, I don't know how
I got a phone call.
I'm going to fix this. And it's like, I don't know, somehow we all have these crazy weeks at the same time. And at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., we are all standing there like,
In the studio.
oh my God.
Yeah.
And it got done within the next day. By the next day, Danielle had gotten up, reprinted the prints. I went to the city to find paper, replace the paper, because she is supposed to run this paper store. I happened to be in the city that day, got it, came back, gave it to her. She had gotten the print already done, had sanded this piece down, and went to work. And we had,
I had to
less than-
recut it, the whole piece. I had to recut the whole piece.
it was like less than 48 hours before the show
Before the
opened.
show opened, it was like 3 hours before, we hung it 3 hours before the show.
Boone hung this show.
Yeah.
Um,
It's on the show.
It was phenomenal, magic. So, question?
I find like, I practice Ifa. My name also happens to be Angola, it found me.
Yeah.
But I practice Ifa, and I also do candle work. So when you were talking about the story, I find like when I burn particular candles for particular reasons, some candles burn hotter than others because for some reason the ancestors are filtering down in terms of that particular need that I have at that particular moment that I need to be focused on. Sometimes when I smudge, the smoke is a little bit thicker than usual. I'll light an incense, the smoke is a little bit thicker than usual. And I will say, like, sometimes it takes a particular type of person to be able to tame ancestors. It takes a particular type of person so that you don't burn things down or things don't get destroyed. So for those of us that truly understand and have these practices, when you say that story, it sounds like it sounds like a taming because of whatever that little girl wanted to express. She expressed it at that moment, and the fact that you were able to tame her and not destroy mana says a lot about your talent in terms of wrangling ancestors. And I will say, everybody can't do it. Only some of us can do it. So I congratulate you for bringing these ancestors forth and for able to tame them in such a way that we're able to see them and interact with them.
Thank you. And I've known Angola since I was in high school. Angola went to the college upstairs, so she's known me since I was maybe 15 years old. And she's also sat in my studio and photographed me and talked to me there. So there's so many connections with everyone that is here. You heard Ben Jones speak, and then you heard Ms. Washington speak. But I feel like I've just been blessed with my experience in Newark since I've graduated from Arts High School. You know.
How you doing? I just want to congratulate you on a beautiful exhibition. You guys, each and one of you guys inspire me to be better every day. And also just the work that you've done from the framing to the composition, to every detail of the work is very phenomenal. And it's nothing like I've ever seen this ever. So I just want to give you guys props, all three of you guys, and thank you for blessing us with a great exhibition.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.
So another thing, this period of growth and excellence. Danielle this week is getting the Jersey City Art Award, the Visual Artist Award. Like, there are doors opening. And that, I think we talked about that, like, in the studio, like, something is happening. The doors are open and things are unlocking. The windows are shooting up. Like, something is changing, and I think we all can feel it. In spite of what's happening in the world, I think we all feel like art is having this new renaissance, this connection that everybody is kind of going to the art, which is amazing.
Yeah, I just thought about, what Brian just said about the award. I'm actually receiving the award at a place, my godmother will laugh at this. So we're getting our award at White Eagle Hall. And the last time I was at White Eagle Hall was with my godmother, and I was the itsy bitsy spider. And my costume was created by by Grandma Reed. So I will be receiving my award on the stage where I was the itsy bitsy spider. And I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Full circle.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, definitely you can ask. Your cotton you can keep if you would like it. It's very soothing actually to sit and pick, so.
but also very difficult.
Yes,
Very
yes,
I couldn't
yes,
believe myself.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about the work, take in the work, spend time with the work. You don't have to talk to the work, but it might talk to you. You know, oh, I can share during the opening, there was a woman who was here who came up to me and she thanked me. And I always feel weird when my work causes someone to cry. And it's happened at every exhibition, where the work is felt by someone that deeply that they share that emotion. So there is a piece back here where she said it reminded her of her aunt. And she started crying. And she told me a story and shared with me that her aunt was forced to feed other children and could not feed her own children. And when she could feed her children, she had to feed them through a fence. So when she saw the image, and then she shared the picture of her aunt, it looks just like the image of my piece. So I sometimes don't, I want people to feel it, but I don't want to cause emotions.
You're not in control of that.
No. But I have a very adamant perspective about art that it should be visceral, right? Art should be visceral. I'm kind of a snob with it. If you're making art for art's sake, it's bullshit, like straight up. And it's like, I could look at art and see, oh, this is just something someone's making because they're just having fun and they need to fill some time, and when it actually has an emotional effect on it. If you're looking at art and you're not leaving from it with an emotional response, then that's not good art, right? So the wonderful thing about Danielle, the reason why I love her work so much is because it's consistently severe. It's consistently severe in its content. It's severe in the process, because I've watched her work. It's intense. And that's the reason why you all are here, right? That's why she's going to Angola, because the art is severe. So that response, those responses that you get are corresponding to the intensity that you put into the work and the content of the work. So don't run away from it, run to it. Because if nobody was responding to it, it'd be fucking boring.
I think it's also the stories. I think it's authenticity. I think you give so much of yourself to the work, being a part of it, that it's an authenticity to it. And it strikes you because it's authentic. It's coming from a place that is well thought out. It's intentional, which I think makes an impact on people.
Yeah, it's hard to walk past it. Yeah, it's hard to walk past it.
I think in knowing that the works are embedded with those stories, with the proof, the evidence, the truth, I think also makes a big difference.
Thank you everyone. To be the curators because of the relationship that I have with them. I didn't just want a curator to install my work and hang my work. I wanted curators that understood my work and understood me, to be a part of the process. So that is why I chose them, not only because they're also my family, my brothers, and we look out for each other, but just because they have observed it, they've watched it, and I knew that they would be able to tell my story when I can't tell my story. They can. So it's nice to have that relationship with the curator of the work.
I think it's trust.
Yes, it's definitely trust.
I think, but it goes both ways. Like, you trusted us with the work, but you knew that we were not going to let you dial it in. Not that you ever would, but it was like, no. I'll give you that it's not perfect. Go back in. Versus like, no, it's fine. Because Danielle can be a bit of a perfectionist. It's like, let it go. It's fine. It's fine. Let it live. Let it breathe. She's like, no, I gotta go back. I gotta go back. And having the trust to say, all right, yeah, these pieces need to be delivered in 24 hours, but go ahead. We will figure out how to get it on the wall. We'll figure it out somehow, all hands on deck when we do it. So thank you for trusting us with it. And thank you to Gallery Aferro.
Yes, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Yvonne. And you know, I must say to Yvonne and Emma are family to me. If you guys don't know, they hold, Miss Growers, she's here with them. And when Yvonne asked me about this exhibition, it was like 2 years ago, and Yvonne just walked up to me and she said, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "No." And Yvonne asked me again. She said, "Are you ready?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Oh, it means she thinks I'm ready." So this is when I was curating the empowerment, and I said, "Yes, I'm ready." And she said, "I'm going to tell you what I want." And Yvonne is very specific about what she wants. And Yvonne said, "I want a new body of work, a body of work that has not been seen." And I told her, "I'm working on something. And it will, there she is! I said, "I'm working on something, and I think I can do this." I did. And I didn't think I had enough work. And then it came in, and I was like, oh, it can breathe. There's some pieces that are not here. Yeah, so, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming and experiencing Ancestral Call.
Thank you.
Bravo! Bravo!
The work is for sale.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It is going to travel, but the work is for sale. So keep that in mind too.
Support local artists.
Support local artists, support local galleries, support the artist community, all of those things.
Exactly. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was listening from the back. How are you? No, we gotta take some